Hey, it's John, small time bookseller here, back with another video. Going to be talking about July with you, and we'll be getting into that momentarily. But first of all, I'd just like to welcome you here, and hopefully that you are here to watch and learn about some things that I sold on eBay, because that's what I do. I pick up things, set them down, pick them up again. Sometimes I buy them. Sometimes I just run out of the store with them. And but most of the time I buy them, and then I sell them on eBay, and then I come here and tell you all about it. So if that's what you're here for, great, because I don't do any yard sale videos, I don't do garage sale videos, I don't do GoPros, you know, the good old bins, looking at my hands, shouting curses at one another, and punching wildly while two men, presumably their wives, were screeching abuse while a small crowd of neighbors looked on. Nope. Just gonna tell you what I sold. That's all it's gonna be. I don't even know if I'm ready for this. I'm not sure, but July was a pretty good month. I believe I had 76 sales in the month of July, which is more than 2 a day. So that's awesome. In fact, my sales recently have been very good. I remember in the last video I was saying that I was so close to breaking that $10,000 90-day total mark. Well, now I'm well over 11,000. So here it is. And so that's over an average of 3 sales a day over that time period of 90 days. So yeah, it's been big. So that's why I'm looking forward to catching up, so I can kind of do some weekly videos about what actually sold this week. Doing July now, August, September, probably have to do an October one, and then maybe November we'll be back on track. Hopefully sales are still going well when we get there. But so because today out of 76 sales, I'm not going to put you through 76 sales. Don't you worry about that. In fact, I'm only going to talk about the over 25 crowd. We're getting older. We're maturing. And anything under 25, I'm going to do my quick recap here in a few minutes. And then we will go over individually the over 25 crowd. So, are we ready to go? I believe so. All right. I'm probably forgetting all kinds of things. I'm just a little scatterbrained today, but that's okay. So here's the under 25 crowd. If you want to pause this and take a closer look at some of these, you are welcome to do so. There was, let's see, I had an art book, a children's book. I had 3 different sales of dishes, which is plates or cups or silverware. A couple of just standard fiction books. I had 2 hat sales. I had 3 sales for things like hobbies. I was kind of finding a way to categorize some of these things here. I had a magazine sale. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 media sales. So that would be CDs, DVDs, or CDs or DVDs. I guess that's all that would be. And a couple books, military books, and just 3 nada books, just things that I couldn't figure out what else to categorize those as. 3 nonfiction books. Take a look at those. And we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 religious books in the under 25 crowd. So you can take a look through those if you want to get a little pause those if you'd like to see those more in depth. A couple of science books, a study guide, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vintage books. So I didn't really know what else to call those other than just vintage. 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s, around that time. So those are the under 25 crowd. So now we are going to hit the over 25 crowd. That was the 25 and under crowd. So we're going to hit the over 25 now. So the first one in the over 25ers would be this guy. This was the Tratado de Obstetricia, a 1964 copy of that one. Sold for $27. So vintage medical stuff is a really good genre to always look at. especially if there are good diagrams in it and things like that. Even in Spanish, obviously. So, and then the next one was a Nauta book. This was a jersey, a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey, sold for $27. Picked that one up at the SPCA thrift store down in Freeport. And then we had a copy of Materials, Science, and Engineering, another science book, sold for $27. I don't know what date that one had on it, but now $28. The Boy Who Sailed Around the World Alone. Poor little boy. Sold for $28. And then another book sold, Yazoo. It's Legends and Legacies. That's Yazoo, not the band. Yazoo. Better known to us here in the States as Yaz. If you haven't listened to Upstairs at Eric's in a while, give it a shot. One of the greatest albums of all time. I'm telling you. But anyways, the Yazoo book sold for $30. And then we had a Modus Vetus, sight singing and ear training in major minor tonality, sold for $30. Southwest Indian Silver. So identifying your Indian silver. This is from the Donaghy collection. Sold for $30 as well. And then we had a set of these mugs, the soup recipe mugs, sold for $30. So it sat for quite a while, but eventually sold for $30, which isn't bad. And then some Bobby Flay dinner plates sold. These are $30 for 5 of them. So they weren't in the best of shape, best of condition. When I picked them up, Goodwill had put a big fat thing of tape all the way around them. And so they looked good, but when I got them home, I saw some chips and things that I hadn't seen there. If I'd seen those chips, I probably wouldn't have bought them. And that's why they sold for a little bit less. If they were in better shape, they would have sold for more, but they were in not the best shape. But still sold for $30. Then a 1973 copy of Dr. Seuss's The Shape of Me and Other Stuff, sold for $30. I very rarely find any Dr. Seuss that are worth selling. Obviously, there's those first edition books out there that are definitely worth a lot, but I've not been lucky enough to find any that are really will sell well. But here's one that I think I talked about in an earlier video. This is the one that I sold, and it never showed up anywhere. So it never got scanned in. The buyer never got it. I had several books that day. All the rest of them got scanned in. It's still, if I look it up right now, it's going to say UPS awaiting item. So I thought maybe I had left it in the car. So I, obviously looked very carefully. I've looked all over the house for it. I had a shipping label for it. Bought a shipping label. It has a tracking number. Maybe the shipping label fell off and now it's just a box in there. They have no idea where to send it. I don't know what happened, but anyways, it never got scanned in at the post office, and I had to refund it entirely. But it was the Service Corporation International, The Creation of the Modern Death Care Industry, sold for $30, and then refunded the full $30 because the guy never got the book. Then we had another jersey. This was the 2019 Wolverhampton Wanderers. It sold for $30. Then we had, these are beautiful glasses. I had these up for, I don't know, a while. It took to sell, but they did sell. These are Pier 1 Fiesta Carnival Rainbow Glass Goblets. I had 3 of them, and they sold for $32. Another book in Spanish, Lecturas Clásicas para Niños, sold for $35. And we had The Strangling of Persia, 1987, sold for $35 as well. This was a good one. Roald Amundsen, My Life as an Explorer. This is a 1928 copy of it. The dust jacket was there, but it was pretty ripped up. So in the title, I put partial dust jacket. I think maybe the front cover was there, but the back cover was missing. But even in that condition, still sold for $38. And then I had 6 of these plates. These are Mikasa Stone Manor Garden Bouquet dinner plates. sold for 48 bucks for 6 of those. And then a math book. We had Differential Equations and Linear Algebra, 4th edition, sold for $50. I'm finding fewer and fewer textbooks to sell, and I don't know if that's because more universities are going to strictly online resources and they aren't requiring textbooks like they used to, or what, or if it's just the luck of the draw where I'm just not finding them. But it seems like it's rare. I used to sell a lot of textbooks, and I just don't seem to sell very many anymore. Now this is one interesting, vintage paperbacks. Never know what's going to sell, but look at this guy. This is Weep for Me by John MacDonald from 1959. $50 for that one book. So a while back I bought a whole like 200 vintage paperbacks at Goodwill Bins. These were a lot of westerns, a lot of action kind of thriller type of books, and put them into different lots and looked them up to see if any of them were worth selling on their own, and a few of them were, but most of them I lotted up. But this one got me $50 just for that one book right there from 1959. Then we had a vintage medical book. This is Surgery of Head and Neck Tumors by somebody, Hayes Martin, sold for 50 bucks. So again, vintage medical, vintage science. I sell those pretty well. Then a Bible, black leather, large print, red letter, Oxford, sold for $50. That's a pretty good sale for a Bible. 50 bucks is probably about the max for your typical, unless there's something really unique about it. And then we had, oh, this was fun. So 34 1970s vintage magazines. Somebody obviously collected Elvis Presley stuff, because every one of these magazines had a picture of Elvis or a story about Elvis or something about Elvis in it. So I sold those for $55. Hoping that some of them may be rare or something, but these were all kinds of different magazines. So it was People, it was Life, it was all the just, TV Reporter or whatever, just different magazines with something about Elvis in each one of them. And then I picked up this football helmet at the regular Goodwill. I think I paid $5 for it, and it sold very quickly for $60. And let's see, and then, oh, here's another one, Star Wars books. So seems like a lot of these Star Wars books have no value. I don't know what's so special about this one that it had some value, but this was Star Wars, The Old Republic Encyclopedia, the definitive guide with dust jacket, $60. And there's a lot of solds in that range, so that's a good one if you find that one. Yeah, keep it and sell it. Then we had a lot of, this was some flatware, $60 for Hardinera style, stainless steel Japan flatware. Then another science book, vintage, from 1966, Stereoscopic Atlas, mastoidoplastic surgery, $60 for a very long word. That's a $60 Scrabble word right there for sure. Then I put these up for auction. I'd had these lot of 7 scorecards, vintage Yankee scorecards. I had them up individually for sale, but I hadn't sold any of them, so I decided just to lot them all together. These are all from the 1940s, and I think 2 of them were unscored, but the other ones were scored, and they were fascinating to see. They had all the names printed in there. It had, Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra, that whole era of players. And as a lot of 7 of them, I've got those at the Goodwill Bins, by the way, just, laying in the bins. I saved them from there, and they sold for $71.45. And then another medical book called The Writing of Medical Papers sold for $75. And then we had this one, the Harleian Miscellany collection. This is 5 books from early 1800s. So these were from 1809 to 1811. They had that kind of marbled library kind of cover on them, but the books themselves inside, 1809. So these are over 200 years old that I found in the Goodwill Bins. And together, the 5 of them sold for $90. And then the big book sale of the month was this one, Color Cauldron by Sue Grierson. So for $100. It's interesting. I'd had this up for sale for quite some time, and I got an offer on it for like 60 or something, and I think I countered at 75. They declined it, and like the next day I got the full offer of 100 from another buyer. So I don't know if there was something on TV or somebody made a reference to it to make, like, out of having no offers for a year, maybe more, and then to get 2 in 2 days and sell it for full price. I don't know what had happened, but maybe something had hit the news by the author or something about that book. And then the big sale of the month, I mentioned last video about the degenerate gambler up in Canada that bought all my poker chips. Well, here it is. I had a 5-piece set, so there's 5 different colored Budweiser poker chips, and I had 49 sets, and this guy came in and bought them all. So I sold them for $4.95 per set, which came out to $242.55. And as always, plus shipping, and those went up to Canada to a wonderfully, very, very much straightforward individual, and not at all a degenerate gambler, I'm sure. And anyhow, so that was it. So that was 76 sales in total. And aren't you glad I didn't put you through all of them, because we're already 16 and a half minutes into this. So what does that make? The total for the month was $2,298 on 76 sales, which is a $30.24 average. Well above the $25 completely random and arbitrary number that I consider to be a good sales month. So this was a very good sales month. And that was 27 Nada books and 49 books. So somebody mentioned, I had a comment, I think just today, saying that I've gone full into the everything reseller. And it's true, but I did want to address that because it's strictly out of necessity. My book sources have really dried up in this area ever since that. It's been years now, but when that Amazon return store left, and that's no longer here, my local thrift stores, just the one Goodwill, doesn't do much in books. I get very few books from them. The little thrift store by the high school, occasionally I'll pick up a few. The SPCA occasionally. And now with the Goodwill bins, there are full-time resellers that are there, open to close, 8 days a week, 8 days a week, 7 days a week, that they're there, and it's hard to get very many books. So I am doing well with my vintage stuff, because that tends to be what is left. But to supplement those sales, since that has dried up, I'm picking up anything that'll sell, which has been fun. I've enjoyed that actually very much, and getting better about shipping those dishes and things so they don't break. One thing that, well, anyhow, I don't need to talk about that anymore. I've talked about it before. So, yeah. All right. So we're catching up. This is July. And I really appreciate everyone watching and commenting and liking and subscribing and sharing and all that. So I will talk to you sooner rather than later, hopefully. And hope you're selling the heck out of a bunch of stuff. And I'll see you later. Adios.